What are the key elements of a sound outcomes-based approach? Sound outcomes-based models incorporate several elements that work together to change how schools or colleges operate and facilitate learning success for students. These key elements are represented graphically in what is called the OBE pyramid. Starting at the top, the pyramid suggests that the key OBE elements are the paradigm of operating, then you get the 2 key purposes, the 3 key premises, and 4 operating principles, and lastly 5 generic domains of practice. So let's explore each of these and go into a little more detail what we mean by them. Let's look at the first one. What is outcome-based education paradigm? That's the first level. Simply stated, a paradigm is a way of viewing and a way of doing things consistently with the viewpoint. As described earlier, the OBE paradigm that shapes decision-making and pattern is of concrete action, is the viewpoint that what and whether students learn successfully is more important than when and how they learn something. From a broader perspective, this orientation to schooling entails a fundamental shift in how the system operates, a shift that makes accomplishing results more important than simply providing services. Implicit in the OBE paradigm is the desire to have all students emerge from the system as genuinely successful learners. What are the 2 purposes that we spoke about? OBE's 2 key purposes reflect its underlying success for all students and staff philosophy. They are ensuring all students are equipped with the knowledge, competence, and qualities needed to be successful after they exit the educational system, and secondly, structuring and operating schools so that those outcomes can be achieved and maximized for all the students. In a nutshell, the 2 purposes commit the system to focus on the future performance abilities of the students and to establish a success-oriented way of operating. They reject the prevalent notion that students of differing aptitudes and abilities should be given different curricular and learning opportunities, thereby leaving some permanently behind and others permanently ahead. Instead, schools are expected to fulfill their obligation of equipping all students with the competence and qualities needed to face the challenges beyond the school door. Furthermore, the purpose implied that schools will have to change how they have been operating in order to accomplish this obligation. What are OBE's 3 premises? They are: all students can learn and succeed, but not on the same day and in the same time. 2, successful learning promotes even more successful learning. And 3, schools control the conditions that directly affect successful school learning. The premise explicitly takes differences in student learning rates and learning styles into account, not as barriers to successful learning, but as factors that must be designed into any sound instructional process. It is a very optimistic view of the learning potential of all students. The second premise stresses that successful learning rests on students having a strong cognitive and psychological foundation of prior learning success. Very relevant for us here in South Africa to understand that. The stronger schools can help make both foundations, the easier it will be for students to continue learning successfully. Finally, those who implement OBE believe that they are capable of changing how they operate to allow and encourage all students to be successful learners. Schools can function differently than in the past if educators and others who work with them choose to implement the needed changes. Together, these 3 premises serve as a rationale on which the actual implementation of OBE guided by its 4 principles, which we will now discuss. What are the OBE's 4 principles? To put the 2 purposes and 3 premises into action, those who implement OBE deliberately and consistently guide what they do around 4 principles of decision-making and action. These 4 principles are at the heart of OBE. Working together, they strengthen the conditions enabling students and teachers to be successful. The 4 principles are clarity of focus, expanded opportunity, high expectation, and design down. As these 4 principles can be applied in many ways to achieve OBE's purposes, it makes little sense to think of schools or departments or districts of education having to implement the one model of OBE. Many implementation options are available. However, successful OBE practitioners apply the principles in 4 ways: consistently, systematically, creatively, and simultaneously. These criteria for applying the principles contribute directly to a system's effectiveness. In particular, the creative application contributes to a system's capacity to innovate and expand the range of OBE implementation possibilities, which enhances the OBE concept and stimulates continued refinement and evolution.